average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes...
Hey everybody! I act like they ain't got no sound, huh?
I had to be resilient.
Speaking of,
That's something that you can't teach.
the little speakers now
What if
here.
that resume was from someone who...
Everything changing.
Everything.
Shout out to WBOK 12:30 a.m.
that I carry with me every day.
When you had so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone.
Growing up where I did, a lot of things could have been
Got Trees Cowell. She chimed in.
All right. Thank you for joining us, sister.
Beyond a resume and look to grads of life. Discover new ways to develop great talent that are so much more than what's on paper at gradsoflife.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
WBOK 12:30 a.m. The People's Station. The following program is a paid program that doesn't necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the staff, management, and advertisers of WBOK.
Could be that. Had somebody call me today about that. For them.
Okay.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to True Love Movement Tuesdays. It's your host, Brother Shaq.
And Mama Fiyah.
And we would like to welcome everyone here this nice and warm, unseasonably warm January 14th, 2020.
Oh my goodness, such a beautiful
Here in
day.
the city of New Orleans. It's beautiful.
The best. This is like perfect weather to me.
It is beautiful out there, but unseasonably warm for January. They got some folks that are kind of covered up and bundled up in the middle of January, but not New Orleans, family.
New Orleans got perfect weather. But that's how you know we a tropical place.
That's right.
You know
Well, we're
what
the
I'm
tropical
saying?
people for sure.
Tropical people. Yeah. You know. Yeah. Shout out to New Orleans and all of its stuff.
And shout out to everybody joining us. We know this is a busy time of the day. There's the commute home. Many people are picking up folks and making their way home from work or what have you. And so we're really honored because there's so many things happening. We have so many choices. We're honored that you've chosen to ride with us for this next couple of hours here on WBOK 12:30 a.m. Real talk for real times. And there are many ways to connect. Of course, the 12:30 on your AM dial, as well as www.WBOK1230am.com. The WBOK 12:30 a.m. app that is available on Google Play and in the App Store. Shout out to our Facebook Live family that is joining us. Simply like the True Love Movement page on Facebook, and you can join us here live in the studio. So what's happening, Mama Fiyah?
Lots of movements, transitions, all these things happening. Lots of change. Lots of change. I thought that was going to we were going to sit in a groove in 2020, but not necessarily.
Maybe 2020 is about change.
Maybe so. Well, 2019 was about change for me.
Yeah.
Big time change.
Right.
And it just hasn't really stopped. But, I just read something about it being time to, really get with yourself and not so much worry about your feelings about things, which is difficult for a feeler.
Yeah.
But I can understand it. Get out your feelings. When it comes to certain things, it is what it is,
Right.
And so that's the energy right now as far as cosmically and stuff. And sure enough, I feel it because I've been learning lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson after lesson.
After lesson, huh?
Well, can you believe that, I think people think you get to a certain place and there's no more lessons for you.
Right.
But, you can learn all day, every day. You can learn every day from everything and everybody. When we sit in the right now and we, make a decision to listen to the universe as it speaks, or to listen to God, or whatever you want to call it, and you listen as it speaks, you will learn all day about yourself. You will learn all day about your people. You will learn all day. So I appreciate the spirit of learning, but I'm learning a lot about myself, and it's uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
It's uncomfortable, but every time you learn something, you grow a little more. So
That's right.
yeah, I'm a little bit grown with it today. So shout out to Iyame, our little baby. I think she might be watching us.
Is that right?
Yeah, so she's probably like, where am I? Why am I?
Why am I not on the show, right?
Shout out to Yami and her beautiful mama, Rodnika.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's my family.
Shout out to them.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to everybody who's listening. Shout out to WBOK, 12:30 a.m. Just, we feel honored to be here.
Definitely.
In the number, sharing our information, sharing our thoughts.
That's right.
Yeah.
Political education.
For the Black Nation. Let's
Right
go.
on. Right on.
And I think people think we're going to talk about politics on this show.
I never heard it before.
But it's all politics.
Everything is political.
It's all politics, y'all.
That's right.
And they already have a lot of shows that give you the blow by blow on what's going on, politically and as far as the
Mainstream,
arena.
yeah.
The political arena. So, yeah, our mere existence is political.
Everything in America,
black,
for sure.
Black women, black men's existence is political. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And not for long. We Black Sid is taking form in our minds, because that's where it needs to take form. Maybe we won't even be considered black. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because that's political.
That's political.
That ain't.
Political.
We didn't decide that, family.
We didn't decide it at all. When we can make a decision on who we really are, that's Black Sid right there.
Yeah, you made me think just now about the whole political nature of definitions and us defining ourselves. There's that one day in Kwanzaa, Kujichagulia,
Love it.
where we talk about self-determination.
Yes.
And that is a very good thing. It's a very good exercise. But, there is, for sanity's sake, there is at least worth some acknowledgement that those of us who are politically designated as black, at no time in the history of America have those of us who are politically designated as black defined ourselves for ourselves.
That's right.
At no time.
That's right.
And so what that means is someone else defined us.
Yes.
And they defined us with a policy. And that's what we're talking about when we're saying it's political. And I wanted to just bring it up since you kind of said that, because during the time, the principle of Kujichagulia, we do a lot of rhetoric. You know what I mean? We really do a lot of rhetoric about self-determination, but we should really reevaluate that. And are we in fact determining ourselves, or are we merely responding to the oppression that we're under in terms of how we are being? And that's important. That's
important.
You talked about being uncomfortable. I mean, how uncomfortable is it that you walking around thinking that you've decided who you are and you have an identity and all these other things, when really somebody gave that to you? Somebody gave it to you or forced it on you. Didn't ask you about it, forced it on you, and now you've internalized it, and it's become your quote unquote identity, and your worldview is through the lens of the identity that someone else gave us. If you were politically designated as black, that's heavy, Mama Fiyah.
So heavy.
That's heavy. And so I know there's a couple of things as we're getting into deeper into the show. We've got Late Bloomer happening on Friday. It's a release, a real release this Friday. Art Space 3116.
Yes, and let me just say, I apologize for the rescheduling of it. We rescheduled it because of the weather, but not really. We rescheduled it because it just wasn't time. For many reasons. And it's difficult with this thing because, it's just been eluding.
Right.
It kind of does its own thing. So we're gonna try on Friday. We're gonna be there with all our might.
We'll be there
do
Friday.
Our very best for Late Bloomer to be out. And when she comes, she's gonna be in all her full glory.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying? All her full glory. So
That's
yeah,
right.
for those who thought they missed it, it didn't.
You didn't miss it.
We rescheduled it. And so Friday, right at Art Space, let's just enjoy, the end of the week. And let's get together, let's listen to some good music, have a couple of real good performances, and then do what we do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Shout out to our brother Matthew Rosenbeck over there at Art Space.
Yes.
3116. That's a really good venue, family. It's a great venue.
It's a great venue. It's big too.
Big and versatile. We've had a
Yeah.
few things over there and attended several things over there, and I really like what that brother has done with the place. And if you're not acquainted, I think he's only been up and running for maybe he might be in year 2 now, so it's still relatively new. So if you're not familiar with it, Google it, go over there, ride by at 3116 St. Claude. Many times during the day, he's also open if you want to go in there and check out the venue. He's got a recording studio in there, I believe. He's got some tenants and some tenant space, perhaps for lease. So it might be one of these slept-on spots that you want to check out.
And it's black owned.
That's what I'm saying.
That's
black
right.
owned.
Yeah, and True Love Movement is going to do everything in our power to make sure all of our events are in black owned spaces.
Definitely.
And then we're going to utilize black owned everything as best as we can for
Definitely.
it. Just because we may not talk about it all the time, but we committed, and we've been committed for years to support and honor our people and their businesses. True Love Movement, this is not new for me personally. This is not new for Brother Shaq personally. And it's not new for True Love Movement either. Like, Kwanzaa, we talked about Kwanzaa. We did Kwanzaa for several years. I didn't do any Kwanzaa this year.
No.
And not because, it wasn't great, because I'm sure it was great. I heard great things about it, but I've internalized Kwanzaa.
Right.
I've internalized Kwanzaa every day.
That's right.
Every day, and my children are to the point where they're old enough, they understand Kwanzaa, they've been through it, and I'm off the Kwanzaa hook for now because I understand it.
Right.
I totally get
That's
that
right.
Kwanzaa has to be in your heart. Kwanzaa has to be on your mind every day.
Right.
And that, I think, the people who are excited about Kwanzaa are actually OGs, and they've been doing this and it's traditional for them, or to people who just are getting to understand what Kwanzaa is.
Yep.
And so, hey, you know what I'm saying? We please know that Kwanzaa is a part of our everyday. And being on the front lines for our people is a part of our everyday.
That's right.
Lately I've been on social media, I've been posting a lot more about quote unquote frivolous things, kind of like frivolous things. And I just, I always want to make sure I know and my people know that the warrior don't stop. You know what I'm saying? The warrior don't stop. That we still here, we still doing excellent work 24/7, Brother Shaq. I am doing the work 24/7, but I'm also on call for crisis and all these different things. I am pouring into people on a one-on-one basis into mothers and into children and into families and these things. This is the root work. This is the work that has to be done before anything else. It's like a young lady said, charity begins in the home. You know what I'm saying? Like taking care of yourself, your home, and your body, and then it echoing out from there on so many different levels. So I just was trying to make sure people know that I'm balancing some things out. I'm definitely balancing some things out, but that warrior it's my mission in life to do this work. So,
well, black folks, we don't have the luxury of just doing one thing and doing it well with quote-unquote laser focus, which the dominant culture socializes people into. As a matter of fact, when you're doing many things, they say, oh, you're doing too much, and that's not in order. As a matter of fact, they may say you have a disorder because you're not linear in doing the one thing and then the next thing and then the next thing. The way this oppression is set up, we've not ever had an experience that. Number one, we haven't had the luxury of that. Number two,
my goodness,
we have a superior intelligence that allows us to do many things very well all the time. And it's who we are. As a matter of fact, part of our existence, we have to do these things.
That's right.
The creativity part of it is not for just for show. It's part of it's part of our being. And
multifaceted. Multifaceted. We can do it all.
Multifaceted, definitely.
And you talked about oppression and you talked about these things. Just last night, I was having a conversation with a young lady who tried to really kind of really talk about how bad black men were. She was really in a bad space, and she was saying, I'm thinking about dating outside the race, because you know, black men, they have, you know, they always want to try to control you, and they want to. And we need to put something in between that, in between, you know, here I am, a black woman, and I'm being controlled by a black man, you know? A lot of the times brothers just don't know. They don't really know what control looks like and feels like for the black woman. You think, you know, you think this, I'm moving through this world like I always do. You think controlling might look like, come here, girl, let me, let me push you and force you to do this thing, which it also looks like that. But then the subtle ways that it can look, sisters, we've got to recognize it and also be willing to teach our brothers with love. They don't know. And I think the way this society, the American society is, the man always controls things, you know? So letting our brothers know that this is something that he's learned, that you've learned, that is not true, and it feels really bad. It hurts, you know, us as women. It doesn't allow us and encourage us. It really is the word, encourage us to be, you know, who we are, who we really are, you know, the fully human. And so, Brother Shay, I'm so glad we had that conversation last night, because I was telling her about Resolving Rape Culture, about the book, in which I'm reading right now, and which every black man should read, every black woman should read, just to start this conversation, because it's a tip of the iceberg, but it's a great, very articulate and spot on tip, you know, for people to really dig in and get in this stuff, because our brothers need to know. They need to know. They don't know. And so we go around and we say, oh, he was controlling. Then we go to the next black man and say, oh, he's some controlling. Then we go to the next one and say, and you won't run away. You want to stop it, but it's not going to stop unless we teach our brothers for ourselves with love. With love, that's you know. Show your brother a mirror and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, you showed me a mirror, man, and look at me, huh?
Look at you.
Look at go.
You're doing great.
No, I mean, and I really appreciate that. I think, you know, I was thinking back to, as you were showing me that mirror, you know, early on, how I was in so much denial about it. And you know, you were very patient, like, you know, he's not ready yet to look at himself. And I realized, because, you know, we've said it for many years verbatim, you know, on the show, but we, you know, in practice, but, you know, our people have very, very good hearts. We are some of the best-hearted people on the planet.
We are, yes.
I mean, we have beautiful hearts, but what this oppression has done to us, in trying to survive it has taken control of our minds in a way that is invisible to us.
Yes.
And that is where the insanity part of it comes from. And we just don't know who we are as a people, in you know, in general, you know, as healthy. We've not had the experience in America in the last 400 years here in America of knowing who we are as healthy.
Yes.
So that means black people equal unhealthy. That's political.
Yes.
We're not healthy. And how could we be healthy? And we're not unhealthy because of our own doing. So all of those things matter. Like, it's not simply to say, just like when saying black men are controlling, yes, and where's the analysis? Why are black men controlling?
Yes.
And then someone would say, well, it's because that's just how they are. But okay, well, why are they like that? Because we really have to deal with all of the whys. And that's part of the reclaiming your sanity part of it. And as you mentioned, Resolving Rape Culture, which we expect to be coming out in the middle of next month for Black History Month, because it's going to be a historical release. And that I'm glad you're enjoying it and seeing that you really influenced that whole journey. But to be able to talk about this stuff in a way, because you know, it's really offensive for most black people to be asked to give justice. It's very offensive for black people to be asked to give justice. And many of the times we're in situations where people say, you know, you need to be respectful, you need to be kind, you need to be compassionate. And those things in a non-oppressive environment sound like very good, you know, very good social etiquette. But for people who've never known justice, it's essentially saying that you need to do something for someone you've never experienced.
Right.
And that if you don't do it, something is inherently wrong with you. So it continues to reinforce the invisibilization of the plight of being black in America and how you're responding to it. And so when people have never experienced justice, they don't know how to give it to other people. Because if I give someone else justice and I've not received it, what is it saying about me? Am I not worthy of justice? Am I not deserving of justice? But you want me to forget about that and give them justice. And our people really are offended by that. So that's a major struggle as it comes to the recognition of the fact that we've not had justice, family. You know, you're not going to find any black people that are going to tell you 5 stories about them having justice. I want you to really think about that. You're not going to find that. You can ask any black folk, ask them, give me 5 instances in your life where you've received justice. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So when you got people walking around who've not experienced justice, the same as what I always ask black folks, where do you feel safe? Nowhere. So we got insecure people who've never felt justice, who are being constantly imposed upon by the dominant culture to suppress any kind of emotion that they may feel as a result of 400 years of dehumanization. I mean, this is where we're at. So if you want to talk about, you know, why black men are controlling, we have to go all the way back to who's controlling black men. Who taught black men about manhood? Who defined, I mean, if black men didn't define themselves, they certainly didn't define manhood. So let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
So where does that even come from? You know, I mean, we got to really ask these kinds of questions, and then
get in there.
And that's difficult line of questioning, because it's going to take us somewhere, but it's going to take us somewhere actually away from black people, and that's important too, because then there's the other school of thought, Mama Fiyah. Well, you know, black folk always making excuses about this and the man this and the man that. Well, the thing about it is, if you don't acknowledge how you come to be in the condition you're in, you're never going to get out of it.
Never.
The only thing you're going to come up with is there's something wrong with me. And who the hell want to walk around feeling like something wrong with them all the time?
People do.
Right.
People do all day. It's called depression.
There you go.
It's called depression.
And what does depression do in our society? It wreaks havoc.
Yes, it does.
It wreaks havoc. So that's a good segue, Mama Fiyah, if you want to say more about that.
Yeah. And so I think it's important to teach on just mental health. You know what I'm saying? Mental health. And we always do, but just kind of narrow it down into an understanding of it. And so people can realize how they may be feeling, and they are, you know, feeling depressed, and how depression maybe looks like something else, but that's what it is. And that our people suffer, all of us suffer from the oppression depression,
yes,
which is what it feels like when you just can't come from under something, when you feel like you just can't seem to reach any higher because you got the foot of oppression on your neck, you know. And
would you define oppression depression again for those people who are just tuning in, or people who are not familiar with True Love Movement or True Love Movement Hour or True Love Movement Tuesday? You know, you defined and coined oppression depression some years ago.
yes.
And I wanted you to just say more about that, because that is the most succinct definition that I have ever heard.
Right.
You
It's
know.
on my phone. I mean, it's
Okay.
I can try to.
Well, you can you're the author.
Yeah,
and
I'm
creator,
the
so
author
you
of it, but I
certainly
mean, of
can
course,
paraphrase
I hit every little aspect of it. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And it's important because the definition is broad.
Let me
And-
see.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Brother
if I
Shaq,
can
maybe you
locate
can
it.
pull it up, because it's important for me to get it right. You know what I'm saying? Every little piece right, and I'd rather read it than. But it's about you know, the sadness. Truly, the sadness we feel without even realizing why, that we just can't seem to move.
Right.
You cannot seem to go upward, and it's always something. And you know, no matter how hard you try, you cannot fill in the blank. You know, and all these things are not because we're lazy. You know what I'm saying? Are not because we're not pretty enough, or it's not because we haven't done all of our good. You know,
Right.
we haven't done enough good to receive some good back. It's because there is, you know, the heavy hand, that it's like a blanket of oppression that we have not only lived under, but that for generations after generations after generations have produced, babies, and generations of people who have this in our DNA, who have had to survive, had to survive through all of it. Thank you, Brother Shaq. You're like, give us the definition.
Well, that's your
Okay,
thing.
yeah, I just, look how long it is, I
Yeah.
can't really hit it spot on.
Everybody, listen up, please. This is very, very important in terms of defining, in ways of defining terms, and something that we'll be talking about, just for the foreseeable future, because we've been talking about it throughout the past, but until it's gone, this is how we're going to refer to it.
Yes.
This is oppression, depression.
Oppression depression is a persistent feeling of sadness brought on by the constant unfairness that is present in every societal system, including but not limited to justice system, the educational system, the economic system, etc., just because the person is black. Oppression depression affects how black people feel, think, and behave. Oppression depression can lead to a variety of other emotional, behavioral, physical, and societal problems. People with oppression depression may feel like their back is always against the wall, and or no matter how hard they try, they just can't seem to make it. People with oppression depression may use things to try to escape the feeling, like drugs, alcohol, food, sex, shopping, etc. Oppression depression is treatable. Get help from a professional therapist who is black and experienced in helping people with oppression depression.
Right on. And who came up with that?
Yours truly, Ayanna Molina, licensed professional counselor, or True Love Movement.
Thank you. That's important to know. That you're not going to find that in the DSM.
That's right.
It should be, but it isn't there.
Because in that case, then all of us
all
will be
black
considered
folks.
considered mentally ill,
Right.
and they would have to pay.
Yes.
They would have to pay for that. And as I'm writing my next book, I realized that we have to have a whole different set of everything when it comes to mental health. Like, we cannot use any of their guidelines. We can't use any of it, because if we used any of their guidelines, black people, the race of black people would be mentally ill and disabled.
Yep.
And so we have to come up with our own understandings of what mental health is for us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because it has to give reason and voice to our condition. And that's the part, family. Like, I'm at a point where, we've been talking about the same thing for a long time. We've been looking at this for a long time. Yeah. And I think that we're at a point now, and I know I'm at a point where I'm a lot clearer that, the pointing at black folks for their condition is not the right direction. It really isn't. Because there are things that we have to do, but if we can't really do anything until we're clear about what happened.
Yeah, that's an important part of the analysis, a huge and important part, because, we want to say it's up to us, y'all. We can pull ourselves up. We can do it. Like, why we keep saying it's about the white man, but these systems are actually still in place.
Yeah.
They're still in place, and then we have to go back in each person's, and I say this all the time, each person's past, and then our collective past,
Right.
And then ancient past.
Yep.
Because there was a time when there were only black people on the planet.
Right on.
There were times when there were only people of color or original people, indigenous people on the planet.
That's right.
And what was our history then?
That's right.
We got to go back and realize that we are bastardized versions of ourselves, and all of that was done on purpose.
Yep.
And there's a lot to learn about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot to learn about your, bloodline and your DNA. There's a lot to learn about all of us.
Yep.
And who we really are.
That's right. And that takes time.
Yes, it does.
That really does take time, family. And I know, we got a relationship with time. We've developed a relationship with time as black folks that has been heavily influenced by the white culture, who is dominating currently. But this thought of time and timeliness.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, because they're definitely not the dominant culture.
That's right.
On the planet, but
That's right.
but they are currently, their thought is ruling how our experience here in the United States, and their relationship with time has been imposed upon us. And that isn't our time. I mean, that's really not our time. And so the notion that we could instantly, I mean, there's these quantum leaps that can happen.
Yes.
And they're not happening in mass, but just in general, these things really do take time. But even in that, Mama Fiyah, we have feeling about, well, this is taking too long. It's like there is so I want to go back, if I could, to what you were saying about when you said about the sister that was frustrated because she, black men are controlling.
Yeah.
And I want to relate that to the imposition of time from white culture on black people. Because many folk would say that's not connected, Brother Shaq. That's two completely different things. You talking about time, and she talking about the black man being controlling. Well, here it is. See, the dominant culture despises, when I say despise, I mean despises the black woman. I mean despises the black woman. There is nothing and no one lower in America than the black woman. And black men and other black people did not decide that, because black people and black men do not set social policy.
Yes, it's true.
They do not, and never have they in the history of America, so we should get that straight. Now, the black woman is totally despised because of her feminine energy, right? Her intense feminine energy. So time, the course of time, is in fact a process, right? When they say, hey, it takes time, you got to be patient, that means you got to wait. That means it doesn't happen right now. And so in this American culture, anything that you have to wait on is deemed less valuable. It is deemed inferior, subpar. What's valued most is the event. We got to do it now. If I can't do it right now, I don't want to have no part in it. An event is totally masculine energy. Totally masculine energy. But a process, in the process of time, well, that's feminine. And there is no one more feminine than the black woman, the original woman.
That's the goal.
So it's the same exact thing. So if a brother is trying to control a black woman, he's also trying to control time. He learned to control time from his oppressor. That is normative, that's what you do, that you don't allow for things to take their course. To just be. You have to meddle with them. You have to impose on them. You have to genetically engineer them. You got to do something to suit whatever perspective you have, and don't care nothing about nature. That is not inherently, quote unquote, black or melanated people. That is not who we are, but we have been socialized into that. And it's important that we know the difference and the distinction. That's a lot deeper dive than saying black men are controlling and black folks are always late. That's different. That's very different.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right, Brother Shay. We got some called.
Do we?
I think so.
Well, yeah, we want to give out the call-in number, even though it's a little bit earlier, 504-260-9265. Again, that call-in number is 504-260-9265 on True Love Movement Tuesdays, family, where we are we're talking about oppression, depression,
and once again, because we always have to teach these things, because we got new listeners, we got listeners who need an understanding and a reiteration of it.
And Mama Fiyah said oppression, depression very quickly, but that was coined and conceived by you, and we have to make sure we cite the power.
Cite the power.
We're talking about oppression, depression. Nobody wasn't talking about oppression, depression before you was talking about oppression, depression, because we checked.
Yep.
We checked before you coined it.
Yes, we
so
did.
Now we have a new part of our vernacular that very succinctly identifies our situation, and we'll give you that definition before the show is over. But just like that, we got the lines lit up, and we want to invite you in, family. Thank you for calling. What's happening?
How you all doing? This is Anthony.
Hey, what's happening?
Look, I look on YouTube, and I saw back in the days, I think it was in the 60s, where Muhammad Ali have an interview, right? Where he stated, if I have to be a millionaire, or if I have to be in Hollywood, or whatever the case may be, I don't want it. You got me? If I can't go in a black neighborhood, when I see a black woman get raped, and I can't go in a black neighborhood and say nothing, right? Because you have made me a millionaire or in Hollywood. I don't want it. Don't give it to me. I'd rather sling garbage on the street than to do that. Muhammad Ali took a stand, and several one of them took a stand.
That's
and
right.
I say this to say that, to say what I'm saying now. When you look at football players, when it comes to black men taking a stand on white folks holding us down, right? When you look at black men of today, right? I'm a black man that took a stand. Jefferson Parish, I sued them. They put a noose around my neck because I was taking a stand.
That's right.
Right? And now I'm trying to tell my story from the time I come out of high school to now, and I'm 55 years old and retired. And I have a history on how many times I bumped into white folks where I couldn't make progress because of the racism.
That's right.
And you having black children coming out of high school today gonna face the same thing. And I have paperwork, I have tracking paper of my life, and could explain to you why a lot of black men of today is not making it when they go on these jobs and they take a stand on something and these white folks fire them for whatever reason.
That's right.
Right?
That's
so
right.
So then therefore, it's very disgusting, and a perfect example I'm going to give you, when you just had this Saints game, right? And you had Drew Brees
become doctors and lawyers and presidents of the United States. So, and a black man can get $1 million and can get cars now, y'all. Like, we've made it. And the thing about it is, we're not thinking about it as far as justice is concerned. We're thinking about success. But they've defined success for us. They've defined success. It doesn't matter if you can be a doctor and you can be a professor at a school and you can do all this work, and the police can pick you up at any moment. How is that success?
Of course.
How is that success for us? And that we have to define success for ourselves as a people. When we talk about self-determination, we talk about defining success. I don't care how much money one of us have or all of us have. If things ain't we are not determined, self-determined, able to be and do the things that we need to in pure freedom and pure liberation. It doesn't matter. That's their money. They print the money.
That's right.
They print the money and they make a decision to say, okay, we're going to get this N-word, some money and some status. And, and you still got to pay taxes, and you still got to be a part of the government in some way, shape, or form. So that, I think when we get our minds right about it, money ain't nothing. Money is just a carrot. You know what I'm saying? It's just a carrot. And, I kind of think of success as if in your heart. You know what I'm saying? In your heart. How are you treating yourself?
That's right.
How do you treat yourself? Do you give yourself justice? Because there's a such thing as self-justice. You know what I'm saying? And are you doing that for yourself, and are you doing that for your children? Are you doing that for the people that's in your sphere of influence? We can think about success in those kind of terms.
That's right.
But yeah, thank you, brother, for bringing up Muhammad Ali. We love him.
I appreciate that, brother. And he made an allusion too to the NFL, the Saints, and all that. And I think we should really understand that the way the whole psychology, the group psychology of athletic sports, and I talk a lot about that in the Resolving Rape Culture book, but the group psychology of that is intended to provide black men who have otherwise not been able to use physical violence to solve problems. That's what that's about. That's what that's about. But it's still controlled. It's still organized, controlled, and coordinated, and still at the pleasure of the white owners.
Yeah,
It's the same with the plantation. It's the same exact thing. And there's only about 1,190 black men that play professional football, and the average median income for that is about $690,000. Now that's far greater than the $24,000 gross annual income for the quote-unquote typical black man, but it's just a matter of co-opting. And so whatever black folks have, whatever quote-unquote success that you talked about, or the way people describe success, whatever that is had in America that's measured up against the white dominant, the so-called dominant culture is whatever is allowed by them.
That's right.
It's not that black people are making themselves doctors and lawyers and high-paid whatever. They're being allowed to do that because they still have to ask someone white for permission. That is still a requirement. It is not that we are in fact determining, because you know, and you described it, that the doctor, the lawyer, the football player, whoever they are, whatever their income is or their particular wealth, if they're at the wrong street, at the wrong time, in the wrong vehicle for the wrong traffic stop, they get the same treatment that the brother who don't have a job, they get the same treatment. So it's not that quote unquote success and status is very limited, provisional, and partial, and it's really up to the people who award it. And if they give it to you, they can take it away. So you don't really have anything.
Yeah.
Don't be confused by that.
And when we are quote unquote successful, according to American society, you're just pouring the more money that you have into the capitalistic system.
Correct.
So you're just only giving, like Gucci. I mean, I hate to see my brothers and sisters with the Gucci stuff on. It's like, what has Gucci done for you? That's what I would love to know. We pouring into Gucci's family.
Right.
We pouring into the generational legacy of Gucci and Gucci's, children to come. And so what do you have for your children when you leave them? A belt, some shoes, like getting our mind right completely on what success is. Success is having children, valuable, healthy children for generations to come. Right? And everybody has what everybody needs. To me, that's success, and of course there's so many different definitions of success in that definition. But, what do you have to leave to your children? What are you leaving? What kind of legacy do you have for them? Because when you wearing Gucci and you say, oh no, baby, I got to get this Gucci pop, and what you think they gonna do?
Right. Now what you're saying, Mama Fiyah, is very, very, very controversial. It's controversial because our people will say, well, hold on, Mama Fiyah, I want to have nice, I can't have nice things? Well, I mean, I work hard.
You mean white things?
Well, there you go. I work hard. I want to have the things white folks have. I want, quote unquote, nice things because, see, if nice things equals white made things, that's the other part.
Come on,
and so
it's top quality. It's Italian and it's top quality. I'd be doggone, make it yourself. Figure out a way to. Well, go ahead, brother.
No. You're right. But I wanted to bring that up. I just wanted to interject and give it back to you because you are right. Because when you're saying this, it's like, okay, the white things are the nice things. And so if white equals nice, and that means black people are not valuable or not meaningful. So there ain't no emphasis on a legacy of children who are viable and thriving that you're describing. See, I wanted to just point out in terms of how someone else has slid into your mind.
Yes, you are confused.
And perverted your value system. They've imposed their value system onto you, and now you're running with it, and they're still improving their condition and worsening ours, and it's invisibilizing our people. Now, granted, none of this is intentional as far as our people are concerned. But we're just completely unaware. Yeah. And the lines are lit up. We're aware about that. Thank you for holding the call, and welcome to True Love Movement Tuesdays. What's happening? Hello, you're on. All right. Hey, man, what's happening? Can you turn your device down just a little bit?
Yeah.
Thank you for calling, brother. What's happening?
Yeah, I'm talking about the damn thing that God is saying about the saints and all that.
About the saints.
That guy is right. I wish I could meet him. I was telling my father them the same thing. They come running to me, talking about, look how the guy crying on the field. Man, he's a pride baby. I said, man, let me tell y'all something. That dude ain't crying because we lost that game. That dude's crying because he worked so hard and you breathe, get that game away.
Right.
That's why that guy crying. See, our people just don't understand. You don't work so hard to get here, and then you go throw it away like that. That's a slap in the face. So, congratulations to all y'all and the guy who was just on.
Right.
Talking about the things. I wish I could meet him because he thinks like I think.
Right on.
For us to go through that, knowing how the referee treated us last year, knowing next year is not promised. I'm tired of saying next year.
Right.
I'm tired of that. So y'all have a nice a nice weekend. God bless y'all.
Right on.
God
Thank
bless
you, brother.
God bless your brother. And I appreciate the brothers calling them because they're using an example from real life. You know, people were really disappointed and upset about that and about the Saints, period, how they just don't make it through the playoffs and these kind of things. But Brother Shay, can you give us an analysis on the Saints?
I would like to because I was thinking about that even when as the brother called just now was talking about that, and he said something that I thought was very key. And he was really talking about how the referees and what have you did us.
Come on,
and
Brother Shay.
I really struggle with that pronoun us because the Saints is a private organization, and as far as I know, black folk, there's no one black that is a principal owner of that organization.
Speak the truth.
And nor has there ever been, nor is that the case for any other NFL team. But there is, in fact, a desire to be owned by someone white. There is a deep desire to be associated and next to and part of because it's a belonging. You know what I'm saying? Like a belonging. We belong to someone.
And we belonging to
We
belong.
belonging. And like that is part of how the sickness shows up. It isn't a criticism for individual people, but the obsession with the Saints is just rooted in the fact that I can't win being black. Maybe I can win if I line up with the Saints. That's all it is. That is all it's ever been. Because black folk want to be a part of something that's two things. That's winning,
Yes.
and that's got white people a part of it.
Come on, Brother
Those
Shay.
two things, that'll make something really, quote unquote, legitimate. And all of the camaraderie that exists around those things during game time and while that's happening, our people know them same white folks do not speak to them on the street the next day.
Come on, Brother
They
Shay.
do not hang out with them. They don't come by the house. It ain't none of that. But just for those few moments, it's just everybody's a who dat. And they, it's a colorless society. But the thing is, after that game is over, after that season is over, the folk, it's still very much so segregated. We're not all together, and black folks are still getting the shorter end of the stick deliberately. And for black people, it hurts so bad because, again, we have a lot of emotion tied into that because maybe we can win as a saint. Maybe we can win with the fleur-de-lis that was tattooed, branded
Come on, Brother Shay.
on the faces of enslaved Africans who escaped slavery to let everybody know they had escaped. That same fleur-de-lis, maybe we can win with it on the side of a helmet. This is what depression does to our rational thinking. You have to wonder if there's even any self-respect in something like that when you break it down that way. Is there self-respect in even aligning ourselves with something like this, given the history? I mean, we really have to acknowledge the fact that that is not us. That is not that is still them. And if you're confused about it, look for the check. Where's your check? You know what I'm saying? Where's your check? Who cut the check for you? Who's consulting you about the hiring and next season? And where's that? Because see, that when you have something, you have influence that way. When you have something. Now, when you don't have something, you don't have no influence. You respond to whatever they give you. So we really have to think critically and seriously and rationally about what is ours.
And we gotta think critically about what we're given. You just mentioned what they give us. Listen, y'all, like it don't make or break anything that has to do with you and your existence if the Saints win or lose.
That is true.
Right? But we get caught up in it because we think, this is great. I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart, and everybody knows that. What if it was fixed, though?
Right.
Like, what if the games were fixed? What if Drew Brees did that on purpose so that these people could be the champions this year? Like, it's a play. It's all caught up in play.
It's entertainment.
It's entertainment. It's media. You better believe the commercials, the capitalism, all that's connected to it. All those Saints jerseys people wearing, and the Saints hats, and the socks.
How many of our people are making money off that? That's what I want.
I mean, come on, Brother Shay. This is part of the same okie doke, you know, that is fixed for you to see and for you to witness and get so caught up in it, you know, that you're not looking at all the other stuff, all the other stuff that's happening right now around the world.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? All the things.
All the stuff that's happening to you.
To
Forget
you.
around the world.
To
Just
you.
your reality.
Yeah, and you know, so when we disconnected, Brother Shay, from different things, our minds expanded a lot more. When we stopped watching TV, when we stopped being into, you know, the saints and these other things, and stopped being invested in it, and we started investing in our own selves and our own mind, you know, to open up our mind and become sharp, you know, instead of blunted, to become sharp and not so much worried about what everybody else is doing, worry about what we doing, and becoming one as a people, becoming one as yourself, but then becoming one as a people. There's no other higher calling for us.
That's right.
You know, the Saints game is just you know what I'm saying, nothing.
And it's important too to even answer that about why we have not done that or why we're not doing that, and that is evidence that you don't consider yourself worthy. You consider yourself worth less than that kind of a thing, and that kind of thing is more worthy and worth more and quote unquote valuable. You don't see yourself that way, so you're going to put your energy on what you consider to be valuable. The thing about it is you didn't create your value system, so you're only acting in accordance with the value system that has been imposed upon you without any critical analysis about that.
And it's just imagine if you had such a long day of work, you know, and all of this, and the Saints game is on Sunday, and you looking forward to it because you just want to relax and watch the game,
right?
You know, and we're not trying to take your joy or disappoint you, just trying to take more of a bird's eye view on what's going on to all of us out all the time.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. And so it's been definitely a fast first hour for sure, and a lot of spirited discussion about the effects about oppression, depression, and what have you. And so looks like we got a caller there, but we're gonna take a break right after that caller. So we want you to sit tight and get ready for hour number 2. And shout out to our Facebook Live family like Akil Alameen, Rodnika, Maurice, Price, and so many others.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you for being here.
Right on, family. And so yeah, caller, hold tight. We're gonna catch you right on the other side of the break. Facebook Live still popping.
How y'all doing? And brother Akil says Brother Shaq is my not role model but character.
That's heavy, man. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, teach by example all 2020. You know, if you want to see what it looks like to be a black man who's a deep thinker and willing to change his mind. A deep feeler, things to, you know, able to change his mind about things, you know, then watch him. He's doing it.
Yes.
He's doing it, you know, and also writing the book about it.
Definitely.
You know, writing a book about it, play by play. And, you know, this book is transformative, y'all. This book is going to transform not only the single unit of a person, but families.
Right.
And the way we think about black women is important. Let's flip it. It's flipping it. The book is flipping things on the right side.
That's right.
You know, in people's minds, you know. The black woman is the most disrespected, but she's the answer. She's the key to turning this all around.
Always
you
has
know?
been.
Yeah, so it's like we need to understand her and I don't mean, you know, love her and give her everything and all these things. No, that's not what we're doing. We're talking about honor and respect. Honor and respect. The two things that black woman does not have. She is the most dishonored and the most disrespected. And that's the reason why we continue this generational thing after another. I don't call it a curse. I don't call it generational curse, because then a curse is something, you know, that some evil, you know, devil or something has put on you. No, these are cycles that we continue over and over because we haven't done anything to change them.
Sure.
You know, I'm not into saying, you know, someone cursed us, because then we've got to wait for them to lift the curse. We got to wait for them.
They still got all the power.
Yep,
still got all the power. If they put a curse on it, then they're going to have to be the ones to lift the curse.
To lift the curse,
so
right?
They don't lift it when they
I'm
get
not
ready
going to them. I'm going to us, because we got what we need. We got everything we need when we get our mind right.
That's right. That's right. We're going to talk more about it
The average time a
Facebook
resume
Live
spends
family
on
when we
the
get back
HR
on the air,
manager's
but
desk
you
is
were
7
talking about
seconds,
what
and
the
most of them are
what-
tossed aside. Now
okay,
imagine
what
if one
the
of those resumes belonged to
I'll
Yasmin,
just save it.
who,
I'll save it
Living in a
because I want
shelter,
you to
juggling 3
repeat that
jobs.
for
I
our
have to
listening
be
audience.
Oh my
And
goodness.
shout out to our
Can't
Facebook
possibly what?
Live
resume was from
folks. You know,
someone
share this show with folks you respect, and you know, we're not asking you to buy any of this because we're not selling anything. But you know, if you are so inclined and it resonates with you, share it with people you respect because of the perspective may again just add some texture and value to some things that are already there. And many people are already, you know, feeling a lot of this. Is just, it seems so unpopular. So they are very quiet about it. So there's a little bit of internal conflict. They want to say rah, 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 but something in them is like, oh, this don't feel right. And there's not really been a lot of honoring of their feelings. So we're going to dig into it, family. We're going to dig into it as soon as we get back officially on the air. All right. Good evening and welcome back to True Love Movement Tuesdays. I'm your host, Brother Shaq.
And Mama Fiyah.
And we are here this January 14th, 2020, here in the city of New Orleans on WBOK 1230 AM. Real talk for real times. True Love Movement Tuesdays. You know, there's so many things happening. We're honored you've chosen to ride with us, and we suspect many of you are on the way home now after the 5 o'clock hour, on the commute home from work, or picking up children from school, or just moving elsewhere. And so we're honored that you've chosen to ride with us for yet one more hour here on today's show, which we're dealing with oppression, depression, which was a concept coined and defined by Mama Fiyah, aka Mama Fiyah, but Ayanna Molina LPC, right here in New Orleans, True Love Movement's own founder and director of women's and girls programming, and just a very brilliant woman in every sort of way. And you know, we've had some callers call in, and folk were talking about some things, and we do have someone I think that had been holding, and we want to get to them first before we dig a little bit deeper. But thank you for your patience, calling, and welcome to True Love Movement Tuesdays. What's happening?
I'm getting static now. How you guys doing?
We're doing fantastic, brother. What's happening?
I don't know what's going on. You get a static phone or what? How we
What's that now?
static? You be coming in loud and clear, crystal clear?
A little bit, yeah. I don't know if there is a. Okay, you're good now. Yeah, if you got your device up, if you turn that down, but.
Oh, okay, let me turn it down then.
Okay.
Turn it down.
All right, we got you now.
Man, y'all covered too much territory, man. I don't even know where to start. you spoke about how, others can find one, and, when I look at the other race as well, I think they are confused too.
Yes,
they are
sir.
being defined as well by
Absolutely.
hierarchy or also ritual, whatever, because they see it completely different from the poor white.
Oh yeah.
Poor whites is just like, basically intensive service.
Of course.
Look, they confused too.
But
And when I find blacks that participate in the holidays, Christmas, and New Year's, and birthdays, and stuff, they're part of that system too.
That's right.
They want, like you were saying earlier, they want to be just like them. They want to participate in the pagan festival. And I'm talking black. Okay? Now, instead of us focusing on family, like, your co-worker was saying, family values, biblical principles, and I'm not talking about white biblical principles. I'm talking about biblical principles. I'm talking about where we as the black race, that's supposed to be the covenant of the biblical principle, which Caucasians had basically hijacked it and put all kind of twists in it. When you speak about the majority of laws or whatever, you know what tribe you come from, right?
Say again?
You know what tribe you come from.
Do I know what tribe? I'm not totally sure about the tribe that I'm from. I've not done the genealogy study on it, so I can't say for sure.
And the reason I bring that up is because some families kept on communicating. Some families stopped communicating. Like, for instance, my grandfather, comes from the Limba tribe.
Okay.
Okay? And I remember back in 1968, 67, I had my older cousin in them, and I was younger. And
and I'm sitting down and I'm listening to them, communicating.
Right.
Kept on communicating. And maybe that's what's wrong today with our race. Even though those Caucasians doing what they're doing, mischievous, deceiving, crooked, all those things, those evil things that Malcolm spoke about. We need to deviate away from crime. We need not to do what they're doing.
Right.
We don't need to steal none of their stuff. We don't need to mess with none of their females. We don't need to be partying like I was saying about the holidays. But like my dad once said, if you go and you start doing the same thing they're doing and you participate in their world and they come and get you and they lock you up, that's on you.
Right.
Not participate in their thing. And maybe we show some superiority, like the lady was saying, we become doctors, we become, entrepreneurs, like astronauts or whatever. We become something, right? Maybe they might start valuing us. What's your take on that? Maybe they might start valuing us.
Okay.
I don't know, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.
Wait, I'm not finished. I just want to hear your take on that.
Oh, what's my take on that? Or our take? Well, I'll give you mine. So, I guess I'll start at the last part of it. I mean, I totally hear you, with the disengagement of their customs and traditions and what have you, but the idea of them valuing us is probably but precisely what we're talking about. That when someone has the power to define you and define your value, it has to be measured up against something else. It's symbolic. So if what we're trying to do is get white folks to look at us like they look at themselves, that's kind of what the civil rights era was trying to do. And many of our folk, our OGs and folks who were there in that time now realize that it was well thought out, except they were trying to get civil rights and not realize human rights. Right. And so we have no desire to be equal to these people. That ain't because they're like you said, they're no respecters of themselves. When you talked about poor white people, there are 41 million poor white people in America. Now that's 41 million people that are gross annual income below the poverty line. 41 million. There's only 9 million quote unquote black folks that are the poor. So we know there are far more poor white folks, and they've been co-opted too by, as you said, the more elite, the oligarchy and that kind of thing. But this is not just about the money. See, the whole idea of value, we got a show from years ago. We're going to find that show. We talked about what are black people worth.
Yes.
And knowing your worth and value, like that's insidious, because these people have got into our minds that as human beings, we have some kind of a value. Like, whenever you have a value, it's got to be measured against something that's more valuable than it. And we're looking at what's the proximity, what's in between that, like the margin, the quote unquote profit margin. And so when we're talking about human beings, it's dangerous to have value. And then when we look at quote unquote values, which they use values as opposed to the principles like you were talking about, how we have principles and biblical principles, but we're using their value system. So that means it's a whole belief system. It's an ideology about what's valuable. And what's always been valuable is what black people can produce that white folks can extract from. That's always been what's valuable. So if it's dangerous for us to really want to even align ourselves with their value system, because what's going to happen is we become quote unquote more valuable to them. They stay in charge. We stay impoverished. That fosters the codependent relationship, and we have no personal human growth and development because we are serving them. Not as indentured servants, because indentured servants is the same thing as slaves, but it's code for white. There were African indentured servants too, but they can't put that. That means we'd be on the same level with white folks. So it's real deep. It's real deep, but that's my take so far on it.
Let me go with this. I can understand exactly where you're coming from, but let me just use this little simple example. For instance, if they had a white and a black guy, did something, in the past or even today, they did the same crime. One gets 20 years, the other one gets 10 years. I understand exactly what you're saying when you come to that point. Steal not being treated equal.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we need to focus on ourselves, right?
Yes.
We need to focus on ourselves. We need to make sure that we can be helping one another instead of shooting and killing one another.
Definitely.
Right? We need to, be more productive and more superior. And that way, as time goes on, we would look, plain and simple, man. We should be within biblical principles, lined up within the Holy Father. That's just the bottom line to the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
We should be worried about what they be doing. And if we are doing the right thing, and like Malcolm said, if they kill one of ours, I hate to say it, I believe in the Old Testament. I go, I do what too.
Right. Well, I appreciate that, but why do you hate to say it, though? Like, it's okay for us to say that they killed one of ours.
I don't want to promote, violence.
Well, I understand that and politically understand it, but I'm just saying we should examine that, how we will accept and we're very comfortable with violence when it's being exacted on us. But for us to utilize violence, we are very, very cautious. And so if you look at how violent America has been, I mean, what kept slavery going is violence, right? But organized, but not just random violence. We're talking about organized, controlled, and coordinated violence.
I agree.
So that has been very, very effective in keeping depression right in place, firmly in place. So I'm not saying that we, again, like you said, let's not do what they do, but I don't know why we hesitate. When you think, we talked about crime.
One thing, they envy us as well, because we go back to the black, Wall Street in Oklahoma. When blacks were doing real well, they had their own businesses, they had their own banks, they had their own hospitals, they had their own, church, they were doing well. For some reason, they had envy that. And there's some envy people, regardless. But I'm just saying, we need to get focused and get back on track like it once was when we talk about from the economic, standpoint of things.
Right on.
Even we go back far to Africa, we still was self-sufficient people. I believe in independence. I feel that we shouldn't have to depend on nobody, depend on no other race or nobody.
That's right.
When I want to get deep down with, because I'm on other talk radio shows, I tell them straight up, man, look, you're in my way for number one. I just hunt my own food, what I need you for. They believe in socialism, we don't. Look, I'm going to close with that and keep it real, my man.
Right on. Thank you, brother. We appreciate you listening and calling and contributing very, very richly.
Yes, we do.
Say,
Thank you,
Mama
brother.
Fiyah?
Thank you. I mean, it's so much. I mean, it's so rich in that. And the envy, I'm just going to go with the envy because that's just the lowest hanging fruit there. But they envy us because we're superior.
Correct.
And we've been superior.
In
We
every
are
way.
the indigenous original people. We
That's
have
right.
still those same DNAs from back then.
That's right.
They don't want to talk about how depression is in your DNA and, slavery now, all of those things is in your blood and in your DNA. But what about the ancient stuff from long ago? That's still there too.
Correct.
And I think the envy never ceased. I don't want what they have.
No.
I don't want what they have. I want what we naturally have. I want to create what we naturally have as a people. And that has a lot to do with disengaging, has a lot to do with disconnecting, completely exiting from this society, from the society that they built for us. As long as we're in this society heavy in every way, we will always be the lowest. We will always, because the society runs on the fact that we're the lowest. This American society runs on the fact that black people are the lowest people.
That's right. It's a
and
construct.
then the whole world society, it's all a lie that black people are the minority.
Correct.
The minority in this realm, but also like the minority in intelligence, the minority in studiousness, the minority in, we are the creators of all these things.
That's right.
And I know we tell our children this, and black people, we were kings and queens back in the motherland and all these different things. But listen, look in the mirror. Right now, look in the mirror, because there is still remnants of those people, those original people, and you have all it takes. We have what we need when we've taken our time to realize who we really are in the best ways that we can. Because Brother Shaq, we talk about these things, but it took us time to, I'm using the word divest. That's what it is. It took us time, and we still have to get our lights from energy.
Oh, yes.
We still have to get our water from sewage and water board. So we got 1 foot in, but our minds, we fighting on getting our minds out, you know, because you're right. It's all about jealousy, all about envy, all about power, when the superior race has all the power.
That's right.
So, yeah, I don't know. Brother Shaq, I did see the cognitive dissonance when you were talking about, you know, why we won't say violence toward our oppressor, why we don't talk about, you know, violence toward them. And it has been embedded in us that we better not say nothing like that.
Right.
Because they're going to come get you and put you in under the jail, if not hang you from a tree. You know what I'm saying? You say things like that. That's the reason why people scared. People scared to say it and even think about it.
Right.
Because it's been over the course of many years. That's what happens to you when you speak in that kind of way.
Right. But here's the problem with that. If we don't have the full scope of the conversation, it keeps putting the onus on black people for their condition. And what it does is it invisibilizes those people who created the condition for black people deliberately to sustain it in this way. And so that is insane, because you can't get any clarity with that. That's the problem. So when you can only say, well, you just need to do better, you know, for black people, you completely ignore the fact that, you know, something has happened to black people, that black people have been put in this condition very deliberately to serve the needs of the people who have owned their foreparents. Oppression, depression, again, is defined as a persistent feeling of sadness brought on by the constant unfairness that is present in every societal system, including but not limited to the justice system, the education system, the economic system, etc., just because the person is black. Oppression, depression affects how black people think, feel, and behave. Oppression, depression can lead to a variety of other emotional, behavioral, physical, and societal problems. People with oppression, depression may feel like their back is always against the wall, and no matter how hard they try, they just can't seem to make it. People with oppression, depression may use things to try to escape the feeling, like drugs, alcohol, food, sex, shopping, etc. Oppression, depression is treatable. Get help from a professional therapist who is black and experienced in helping people with oppression, depression. Ayanna Molina, licensed professional counselor, True Love Movement. So it has a name, and that helps us with our understanding of what we're talking about, because this English language has eluded us, and it's not our native tongue. It is a very young language. It is a very narrow language. It is a deliberately very confusing language. And we are very brilliant people. And so trying to fit the scope of our brilliance into this very narrow, small, young language, right, that was imposed upon us, we got to remember that too. That was imposed upon us. It does us a double whammy, because not only are we limited to how we can communicate, we're also limited to how we can imagine and create, because our thoughts are also in English. So if English doesn't cover it, we can't even conceive it. I mean, that's very, very, very insidious. But those are things that, again, we have to consider, so that while we're a little bit frustrated with things and we're angry, it's not because there's something wrong with us. Something has happened to us, family. And one of the ways it looks is oppression, depression. So thank you.
Thank you, Brother Shane. Thank you for reorienting ourselves to it. And I hear it in all of the callers. You know, I hear a sense of sadness in all of the callers, whether you sad about the saints or not. You have this sense of sadness, like you just, you know, we just can't do it. Like we won't be able to do it. Right. And you know, Brother Shaq, when we first connected, you would say, well, you know, it's not really gonna happen in our lifetime. It's not really. Right. I don't know when it's gonna really happen. And then I say, wait, hold up 1 second.
That's right.
You know, let's fix our minds to orient toward freedom, navigate to free,
Right.
and realize that if we say that, then there it is. And I know people don't really, you know, say, well, all I have to do is say I'm a millionaire and it'll happen. But
Right.
we can speak things into existence, and we can also like stop ourselves from achieving things by the way that we speak, by
Right.
what we say, by the way that we're thinking.
Right.
You know, that
Right.
we have to know that we, you know, what goes up must come down. You know, what goes down must come up. Like, we have to know about the frequencies and vibrations of life itself. And that coming up is inevitable.
That's right.
Coming up is inevitable. And Brother Shaq and I, True Love Movement is a catalyst to that type of change, in that we're speaking it and not afraid to speak it, not afraid to say, y'all, disconnect and divest from the saints. Y'all, we are superior people. And guess what? Superior people mean we have superior hearts.
That's right.
We have superior hearts. White people are very afraid of black people being in power over ourselves. Not over power over them, power over ourselves, because they know what's going to happen. Everything is going to switch once we have power over ourselves.
I'm glad you said that, you know, for our folks who are watching and our listeners. Shout out to our WBOK listeners, wherever you're listening from, whether it's online at www.wbok1230am.com, the WBOK app that's available in Google Play or in the App Store, or on 1230 on your AM dial. And shout out to our Facebook Live family who we see on commenting and sharing the show. You know, like you said that there was a time when I essentially said, you know, it's not going to happen in our lifetime. And I wanted to just spend just a second on that, since you brought it up, and we can use a very real example of, you know, a personal example of mine. That is what oppression, depression
Yes, it does.
looks like.
Hopeless. That's
It's the
right.
hopelessness, a sense of, when you have a sense of hopelessness and helplessness, that is an indicator of oppression, depression. That there's a ceiling on what you can conceive to be possible.
Yes, yes.
But it's because that there's something on you. There's something on you. In other words, and it wasn't really a ceiling, but I felt, you know, and I really, truly felt wholeheartedly that what I was saying was factual, and it was accurate, and I was willing to stand on it until you inspired me to feel differently, not think differently, feel differently about what was possible. And that's what actually opened it up for me to be able to say, oh, it can absolutely and will and is in process right now. And it's not, just like you said, this is not speaking it into existence. This isn't positive thinking.
Yes.
But what in fact this is a reclaiming of my own mind and my humanity. But see, that's something that I do. I have to do that for myself. And so I then would have to consider myself, to use a colloquial term, vernacular, like one of our callers had said earlier, I'm worthy, I'm valuable, I mean enough to me to make a shift that is in alignment with my self-respect, my dignity, and that is me, in fact, loving myself. So that's what loving myself looks like, freeing my mind up to consider these other possibilities, and then following my heart to make them so. That is a process, but that is how you work your way out of oppression, depression. It is nothing to be ashamed of, but again, you know, I don't know anybody who's listening, or if you're watching, I don't know if you've ever felt exhausted or felt really beat down. You know how we be talking about that. I feel beat down. Listen to the language. I feel beat. I mean, think about that. How does a person feel beat? You can say I feel beat.
By what? Beat by who?
Without acknowledging beat by what and beat by who, and then just put it on yourself. If I just have this feeling, you know, I feel beat. Like, yeah, it's a real feeling because something is beating on you. You know what I'm saying? And something has been beating on you for generations, for hundreds of years. And so, yes, you do feel it. It is a very real feeling, and it affects every aspect of your life.
And you know, we can easily see oppression, depression in our people that maybe just they can't work, and you know they don't want to work, and they just sit and they drink alcohol all day, and they, smoke, all kind of things all day. They're doing things that definitely going to hurt their bodies and hurt their minds. And they, fight each other or anything like that. That's what oppression, depression looks like. But it can also look like, me and you. It can look like us, and we work and we take care of our children and we do all these things, but we still feel like we will not. There's no way that we're gonna make it. There's no way that we're gonna survive this. There's no way that I'm ever gonna feel joy. Lately I've been asking my sisters, what is joy for you? Mm-hmm. And they can't answer me.
Right.
They can't answer me because they do not know.
Not acquainted.
They're not acquainted with joy. Now they know happiness because it's fleeting.
It's external.
But
right?
joy, deeply being joyful, and it's like, how can you be joyful in this society, Mama Fiyah? You got to do the work. You got to understand that this is all an illusion. It's all a lie. Mm-hmm. When you realize that it's all a lie with very real ramifications and very real consequences, but it's not the truth.
That's right.
It's not the truth of it. And I'm tired of saying, quote unquote, white supremacy. I'm tired of saying those words because that's a lie.
I don't. Yeah, we
when we say these things, we have to be careful and understand what's real, what's true. And when you know who you are and you know what's true about you, all that is just like a whole bunch of lies around you.
Right.
It's just a bunch of lies that you can maneuver through. And so oppression, depression is treatable.
Definitely.
I've treated it in you, Brother Shaq. You've treated it in me.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? To lift ourselves up. No one is coming. No one is coming to lift us up, y'all. This is your own responsibility to lift yourself up and understand what's really happening, what's really going on.
Mama Fiyah, I was looking at what our sister was saying, but before I say that, I wanted to address what the sister was saying. Very good comments on the Facebook Live, family. Mm-hmm. And I'm a little bit low on my battery, so if I go off on that, we'll still be here on the air. But I wanted to just say this. You just said something profound about responsibility. And that, it is our responsibility that no one's coming for us and what have you. But I wanted to add to that, because what I learned about teaching responsibility for decades is that I was doing it completely wrong, because I was teaching about responsibility. And what I found in our people, particularly like in black men and black boys, is that when you tell a black man, hey, look, man, you're responsible for da-da-da, many black men feel like literally a literal feeling of anxiety. There's some anxiousness in their bodies when they hear the words, you're responsible for. And I did a lot of deep digging on what that was about, and that's because of the disempowerment. So when you tell somebody who feels completely disempowered and dehumanized that they're responsible for something, they freeze up. And the reason they freeze up is because they're not sure if they can really do it. And so what I figured out was I'm no longer teaching anything about responsibility.
Come on, Brother Shaq.
I stopped doing that, and it was life-changing for me personally, but also for the people who have been, in my presence and part of that teaching. I teach power.
Yes.
Because power, as defined, is the ability to define a thing and cause others to accept your definition as their own. That is the definition of power that I teach. Now, that's not my definition, but that is the definition of power that I teach. The ability to define a thing and cause others to accept your definition as their own. That is power. And so when someone really gains a sense of their own power and they really do internalize and understand what that means from a very universal application standpoint, and that it is applicable to all things in their sphere and their realm, we realize that responsibility is just a side effect of power. Responsibility is just merely a side effect of power. Because you define it and create it, you end up being responsible because you did it. But that, and what I've seen is folk have a different kind of success because they don't actually have that physical, visceral response when someone says, you're responsible for it. Mm-hmm. And so we actually do have the power, But what we don't have because of the oppression, depression, is a sense of that power. We don't have a sense of that power.
That's right.
And because we don't have a sense of that power, we don't act in accordance with that power. We act as though, like I said, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So that's what happens when you're ill-informed. You ill-inform others, and that's dangerous.
Yeah.
Not again. There's no bad intent behind it, but again, it's not productive. Our sister Angela Gordon says here that she says, very true. We discussed that we are still recovering from the crack epidemic. My dad was on drugs. The absence of black fathers creates an oppression depression. Now, she's definitely right. However, when we look at the quote-unquote crack epidemic and all of our people that have been adversely impacted by that,
still are,
like I said, directly and indirectly, and still, that is a response to the existing oppression depression. See, when you're already feeling like you're nothing, you're down and out, everything that the oppression depression defines, what you want is one single thing. You want relief.
That's right. And crack make you feel like a Superman. Crack make you feel like who you really are.
Right. But just for a short time.
Yep.
And in a very small, limited scope of it. But to go from feeling like you're nothing,
yes,
to feeling like Superman, as you described, for people who have been chronically oppressed and depressed, it was too good of a moment to pass up. And so, again, when we look at our behaviors, we do have to look at the things that preceded the behaviors to understand, like our brother was saying earlier about, we do crime, and I was saying, crime is a response to something. Criminal activity is a response to a perception of lack. And so if you don't define what's valuable, but yet you embrace the definition of what's valuable and you don't have it, you feel lackful. So you don't want to feel lackful, so you want to go feel like you think other people feel, and that's what produces crime. We got a wonderful video, man, on True Love Movement TV called, and it's short, it's called The Reason Why the NO is So Violent.
Come on.
You all should subscribe to True Love Movement TV on YouTube, and you can check out, all of the latest True Love Movement Tuesdays and videos and workshops and all this other. But scroll through there and locate the reason why the NO is so violent, because we already know the answer. We know why the violent crime exists in our city, and it isn't because there's just something wrong with black people in New Orleans. That's not it at all. So yeah, check that out, because these are things we've addressed a long time ago, in a very public way.
Yeah, and my sister's talking about crack, and crack was purposely injected into our communities because of the Messiah. They're looking for just trying to destroy our people, trying to destroy the Messiah that is us.
That's it.
That is all of us. And you destroy the black man, and you destroy everything that could have come from him.
That's right.
When he was in his right mind. And so, I want to just take a quote from Late Bloomer, and I want to thank my sister Kendor, who brought oppression depression into Late Bloomer on State of Emergence. She's not only has a verse on there, but sings a part on the hook. And like I said, Late Bloomer is coming out on Friday, January 17th, and we're going to do an album release party over at Art Space. And I would love to see people there. We rescheduled it and everything. But she says, emerge yourself from oppression, depression.
That's right.
She said, you got to believe in yourself so you can be better.
That's right.
And it's like, do we know we can be better?
Yeah.
Do we know that we can be better? I don't mean think. I don't mean feel either. I mean know that we certainty, can be better. Yeah. And that's what moving ourselves away from oppression and depression does. So, Brother Shake, we got fires lit in us. We on fire with this work, but we weren't always there.
Not at all.
We weren't always there.
Not at all.
We had to understand the catalyst. The catalyst was like, I have children I brought people into this here.
Right.
I brought people here. You know, it's up to me to change it for them, and up to me to light a fire in them to change it for themselves and their children. It's the only way it's going to happen.
That's right.
You know, when we talk about Black Sit, my people, and we need to keep circulating that show.
Yeah.
Because that show was, you know, just the tip of the iceberg on what it means to exit blackness.
Right.
What does it mean to exit blackness? What does that mean
That's right.
for us? What does it mean to divest from all of the systems? And can we? Yes, we can.
That's
yes,
right.
of course we can. So
That's right.
thank you, Angela Gordon.
Definitely. And also thank, Kendall, you see, she's actually part of our Facebook Live family.
Yeah, shout out to Akindor. And we're going to have performances as well. And I'm glad things happen like they're supposed to, because Xavier Molina can perform now.
That's good.
He wasn't able to on Saturday. And so we're going to have performances from Akindor, who's going to be doing some of her original pieces. Xavier Molina's going to perform, as well as Tanuki. And Angela Gordon as well, Tantrita, is also going to perform. So it's like we're getting ready to have a really great show and an introduction into some really beautifully talented people.
That's right.
And then giving an album and listening to albums that's teaching us, that is healing
That's
us,
right.
it's healing hip hop. Your children can listen to it in a car, and if they have any questions, you can explain it to them. It's a teachable album. It's a teaching album. You know, I'm on fire with this.
Right
so
on.
it's in everything that I do. The answers and everything I do is at my house, is at my work, is in my creativity, is in everything I do to bring this message of, can we do it? We must. We must.
Yep. I was thinking, I wanted to ask, so are the Free Souls going to be a part of this?
Yes. Oh, yes, they will.
Okay.
Now, they're going to be performing with me.
Okay.
So it's not like they'll have a performance of their own. Unless they want to, I'll talk to them. Because I'm very respectful of these brothers.
And is Sister Nicole?
Yes, Sister
Okay.
Midwife Nicole will be performing. We perform and turn it all around together.
Okay.
And if they wanted to do something separately, we could, maybe. But it's in it for 2 hours, 7 to 9, y'all. We're gonna start on time. We're gonna hit it, and we're gonna really have a great time.
I wanted to shout out and say rise in power to Fifth Ward Weeby,
Yes.
as many folk have been, and also make a connection because it was Fifth Ward Weeby's Let Me Find Out that inspired Sister Midwife's verse.
Yes, her verse so cold-blooded.
On Turn It Around. So it was just one of those things that happened so long ago. I mean, Turn It
so
Around.
organically.
Yes, Turn It Around got done so long ago, but it just so happens that right near his transition, that song
It's actually coming
will
out.
be coming out. So,
You
so
know, I mean,
rise
she
in
said,
power.
let me find out.
She said,
You keep eating that pig. Let me find out that the pig got you sick.
That's
Let me
right.
find. I mean, she in it. She teaching, and I think this album has something for everybody to listen and learn from.
Definitely.
Yeah, and enjoy. It's not boring. It's good. We having a good time.
Yeah, I think too. And there's a book that goes along with it that's been out for some time. Keep It High Thoughts in a New Light.
Yes.
So we don't want to forget about that. You were just saying teaching tools. Unfortunately, because of the Eurocentric education model
Come on, Brother
that we've
Shay.
all experienced, somehow for our people, we have this disdain for learning. Like, learning can't be fun. Like, fun is when you're not learning. And that's not really...
Fun is when you're high and drunk and carrying on.
From
But
everything I've understood, that's not really the African way. That we learn, as the brother was talking earlier. He asked about a tribe, and I don't know my own genealogy. And I think he said his people from the Limba tribe. And forgive me, brother, if I'm saying it wrong. It's kind of the way I heard it over the air. But when he was talking about how his grandfather, and they had the oral traditions. And that's the way we learned. It wasn't that it was all cataloged and written down in some book.
Yeah.
We had the oral traditions that was spoken word, that had music,
there were songs.
they had rituals. So we actually internalized the lessons. It wasn't for this very superficial
Regurgitation.
memorization and regurgitation, and then after that you've forgotten it and it doesn't serve you or anybody else, and that's supposed to be quote unquote smart and intelligent. I think not, family. I definitely think not.
Yeah, beautiful. I want to celebrate when we do for self. You know what I'm saying? This whole project has been a do for self project. All of our books are a do for self book. This True Love movement is doing for self, and that's what's important. But the thing about it is, you got to know you got power to do for self.
Yep.
You got to know you got power first. So listen, we are here and we're doing this work. If you want to know more about us, just look us up, True Love Movement.
TrueLoveMovement.com, True Love Movement on Facebook. Follow True Love Movement on Instagram. On Twitter, it's @TLMHR. And subscribe to True Love Movement TV.
True Love Movement TV. We're getting ready to have some new kinds of things on True Love Movement TV right now, soon, as we diversifying all the things that we do, and we're capturing it on video.
Right.
I mean, if we have YouTube, we might as well use it for our people, use it for the betterment of our people.
That's right.
If we have access to things, use it for the upliftment and betterment of Black people.
I don't think we should discount the spirit of the work. I think there's a lot of apprehension about that.
Say more.
Well, we're really heavy duty into the thinking aspect of what we're doing, the cognitive functioning part of it, because that's value. To be a great thinker.
To be intelligent.
To be intelligent, is another quote unquote white value. It's not so much an African principle that I've ever seen, because our intelligence displays itself in many, many ways. And so to not devalue the spirit of what's happening, because sometimes our people may not say it exactly white. They might not say it exactly white.
Come on, Brother Shay.
And that doesn't mean that what they're saying and trying to articulate isn't right. They're just not saying it white. And it doesn't mean that it's less than. But that is the political nature of the language that we're limited to, at least the one that I'm limited to, because I only speak English as fluently as someone like me can. But, it's just not sophisticated enough of a language to really for me to be able to convey all that I could feel and consider and experience. It's just not sophisticated enough. It isn't. And so it's the kind of thing that's got policy. It's political. So if you don't say it exactly according to the grammatical rules, somehow that invalidates what you're saying. And that's ridiculous, because it doesn't give any credence to the spirit through which you're trying to convey and communicate. So to honor the spirit of our people, that won't happen if you don't honor your own spirit. And then if you don't honor your spirit, you can't possibly honor the spirit of other people, because you're not even sure that your spirit is actually part of the greater spirit, and that we're all the same spirit. I know that's not, Brother Shaq, that's way out there. But I would challenge you to consider that, because for as much as we want to say as Black folk that we're individual people, we're individuals, first of all, that ain't even our nature. We know we're part of a collective. We are joined, we are connected. But just have a conversation with any Black person you want. Have a face-to-face conversation with them. And after that conversation, I'm going to challenge you to find your breath and find theirs. See if you can find it in the air between the two of you. If you can find your breath and then identify their breath. I don't think you can. I know you can, because we're all part of the same consciousness. That's how our consciousness really, really and truly is. You can't. So you're not separate. You're not really an individual. That's more of a facade of a white-minded aspiration to be an individual.
You're one unit in the unity.
Yeah.
You're one unit in the unity.
Yeah, and to be joyous about that. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. But I'm only raising that up in the spirit of it, because we want to belong to everything.
Except for us.
And we already belong. Like, I'm already a part of the greatest thing that has ever been produced on the planet. I don't need to belong to nothing else.
That's right.
I don't need to belong to anything else. You are melanated.
Then we start talking about love, Black men and Black women loves, and I belong to you and you belong to me.
That's a whole record.
Oh my goodness.
That's a song.
We can have a whole another 2 hour show on that one.
I suspect that we will.
How about you belong to yourself? How about that?
I
And then we
suspect that
belong
you will.
together.
We
We
will.
belong together, yeah.
I think we will have that show about belonging and like black relationships. And
People love that. People
we-
love. They want to know about black relationships. Well, how you gonna get it now? That me and Brother Shaq, you know what I'm saying?
We're not a couple.
We're not a couple anymore. You know.
But there's still a
but
lot
we
of
still
learning.
know.
We still know.
We still know. We sitting here in love. We right
That's
here
right.
in love with you.
That's
you know,
right.
we in love with each other and we in love with our family right here. This
That's
is what
right.
it looks like.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I think we will do that because there is a lot of mystery around, you know, again, the way black folk relate to one another. That is simply just a reflection of the way we
Of how you
relate
relate
to
yourself.
ourselves, right?
Relate to yourself.
Right.
Relate to
But see, it gets deep and complicated because if you are convinced that you ain't nothing, the whole idea of relating to yourself sounds foolish. And then it puts the onus on you having to relate to someone outside of you for a relationship. And so there again, that's where we begin with the insanity. Looking outside of ourselves for what we actually
for
have.
everything else.
Because we don't have a sense of our own power. So I do think that'll be coming up soon. You know, I think we should do that show because there's so many other layers and aspects that I think we can offer with our
Definitely.
experiences and the myriad of those that can add a little bit of a different texture to some of the stuff that's kind of out there. Not that there's anything wrong with what's out there. We're just talking about adding to it in
Yes,
a way
sir.
from a true love movement perspective. So
Yep.
yeah, we're gonna do that, family.
Yes, yes, yes.
Angela Gordon is so excited. She's been rehearsing.
Yes, she's going to be performing as well. It's going to be a good night. It's going to be a really good night. Y'all come on through. It's on Friday from 7 to 9. You know, get off work and come on through with your work outfit on. Listen, this ain't about
Hey.
what you got on. This is about the experience of introducing this to New Orleans.
Right.
You know, like we ain't got to do nothing special. Just show up.
That's right.
Just show up.
The real come as you are.
Come as you are, baby.
real
Come as you are. Get off work and come on through. Let's feel good for a minute. And then we might have a little after party.
There you
Come
go.
on. Come on.
You know, I think that there is so much wrapped up, and that's another. Since we brought it up and talked about how people are looking and presenting, that's just another indicator of the oppression, depression.
Yes,
Because
it is.
There's something in there that tells you are not good enough. You don't present good enough. That you have to go get something and put onto you to be, in fact, good enough. What's that about? I mean, that's not a criticism. I'm just asking you to consider the group psychology that's happening and where did that come from? Like, where did it really come from that you not only emphasize that for yourself, but you emphasize that for other people to the degree that if somebody don't look how you think they ought to look, that can completely invalidate whatever they're expressing. Like, where did that come from? This is not a criticism that you may possess this. This is an opportunity for real, deep, introspective, and then collective analysis. Like, these are the things in 2020 with 2020 vision. Like, people talking about they got 2020 vision. Well, see that clearly. Then.
Come on.
See
yourself
that clearly.
Let's go.
You know, that's what we're talking about here for real for 2020 vision. And listen, oppression, depression will make your 2020 vision blurry quicker than
Yes,
anything.
it will. Yes,
Quicker
it
than
will.
anything.
What you're looking at, are you looking in? You know, and looking in is all the answer. And the thing about it is that if you take the time to look within, take the time, take the energy, do the practice, then you can really see. You can see what's going on outside of you. And the thing about it is we don't want to look within because it's ugly. A lot of the time it's very, very ugly. But how did the ugliness get there? What
That's
is
right.
it all? What is it all, how did it get there? How did it get there and by who? Was it deposited by this and that? A lot of the time in counseling, we have to go back to childhood. We have to go back to childhood to see that first layer of what was deposited into you.
Yep.
And then what was deposited into your parents and every black being on the planet.
Yep.
Like we go back and do all that work to alleviate some of that oppression, to alleviate some of that understanding. Once you have the understanding of oppression, then you get it that it's a lie. That that this is not natural.
No.
Oppression is not a natural phenomenon.
It's terrorism.
Yeah, yes it is.
It's straight up terrorism, and you should call it that. You should say, whatever it is. And I had looked up something earlier because I wanted to share it. This thing about, I think it was one of the callers inspired me. He said something. But I thought about, as soon as he said something, I thought about righteous indignation. Because that's not a term that anyone black coined, but the idea of righteous indignation is a concept. I'm going to read to you how it's defined. It says that righteous indignation is typically a reactive emotion of anger over perceived mistreatment, insult, or malice. It is akin to what is called the sense of injustice. In some Christian doctrines, righteous indignation is considered the only form of anger which is not sinful.
Oh my goodness.
When Jesus drove the moneylenders out of the temple. So righteous indignation is something that apparently it gives a.
We need a show on this.
Yeah, I think it could be a very good show because it's a thing, as the young people say. Righteous indignation is a thing, and it's not something that anybody black who's suffering from oppression, depression came up with. So how is it that folk who are aligned with, or perhaps part of the oppression on black people, can conceive a concept called righteous indignation, which means it's cool for you to be angry about being mistreated.
Come on,
injustice. And an injustice,
Wow,
and that it is the only anger
we got
that is not sinful.
Wow.
So they made that for themselves.
Yes, they did.
Because they recognized that there were circumstances that could exist where you might have to get angry, you might have to be violent, you might have to do all kind of things, but they had a policy about it that under those circumstances, for them, is not sinful. Well, what about black folk?
Now, come on. We ain't never had no justice.
Can black folk have righteous indignation? That is our question. We'll do a show about it.
Yes.
But I'd like to pose that question to all of our listeners, wherever you're listening in the world. Ask yourself, and perhaps have a conversation about, can black people have righteous indignation? And even the asking of that question suggests that someone may have to grant you permission for that. Like the fact that you even have to consider it as a question, where for other folks, that is part of a birthright. That is a little an exclusionary policy that you can be angry and not sinful if you are being mistreated and feel malice. So I just wonder about that.
Well, Brother Shaq, remember the show we did, Right to Us?
I remember that.
Yeah. We need to. All these shows need to come back around.
We got plenty of these kind of shows that we've been talking about this. Usually, we were talking about these kinds of things when some other event was dominating the mainstream media or what have you, and people were kind of glued to that. And then that show we did that was really brilliant show, Headlines for Your Mind.
Oh,
we talk about that particular phenomenon of head and lines and how. You're really manipulated by
you're under hypnotism.
These things.
Wake up.
But yet these other things like oppression, depression linger.
Yes, it does. And it goes and it gets deposited into your children. And then they deposit into your grandchildren. And then deposit into your grandchildren's grandchildren.
Wait a minute.
It's time for us to stop it. Stop it because we can. Yes, we can.
So yes, guess what? They deposited into, like you said, we deposit into our children. They deposit into our grandchildren. But let's go a step further. In their grandchildren deposited into my grandchildren. See what I'm saying? Like, it's not just something that's happening to you and with you and that ain't affecting nobody else. This is what we're doing over and over again to all of us. We're just doing this to each other, unbeknownst. Not because we're bad people.
And I think about the crime, when we talk about the crime in a relationship to poverty and these different things, like, don't you think that's righteous indignation? Like, if you know what I'm saying, crime? When you say, I'm hungry, my children hungry.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or I don't have what I need, then it's righteous for me to, you know what I'm saying, hurt hurt the next man.
Go do something because, you know, and that's what so this is what this, you know, poverty, of course, we know it was created.
Yes.
It's nothing natural about that. And so poverty produces crime, but we never get into what produces poverty.
That's right.
We always talk
Capitalism.
about poverty produces crime, but not what produces poverty.
Yes.
A brilliant brother who I admire and respect deeply, Ron Chisholm. First brother I ever heard ask a question. He said, you know, this is how he broke it down. He was very clear about it. He says, you know, when white folks need something, they create a policy or a law to address it.
Wow.
When black folks need something, they create a program.
Come on.
And the program lasts for 3 or 5 years, or however long the funding is for the program. He said, but of all the years I've been part of programs, watching programs, administering programs, looking at programs, listening to people talk about programs, I ain't never ever ran across a program to end poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is his words. He said he never encountered a program to end poverty.
Wow.
Because there isn't such a program. We got a program to fix black people in every aspect of fixing black people, but there is not one program to end poverty. Mm-hmm. Now, we understand that with an unlimited budget. Yeah, I know we did. Yeah. And so that's worth considering. That there isn't a program to end poverty, but there is a program to fix black people in every aspect of whatever may be wrong with black people. There's a program to fix it where somebody's able to get a lot of money to fix black people without any analysis about what happened to black folk and how they quote unquote get broken. Like, what's that about?
That's
but
right.
we know oppression, depression is a very real thing, and it is a brilliant way, Mama Fiyah, by you to just to help give our people voice and language, so that they can understand that it ain't nothing wrong with you.
That's right.
It's just something that's happened to us, and so we want to leave you as we are preparing to go off the air. We want to just leave you with, again, that definition of oppression, depression that was coined and conceptualized by our very own Ayanna Molina, licensed professional counselor, founder of True Love Movement and director of Women and Girls Programming. She says oppression, depression is a persistent feeling of sadness brought on by the constant unfairness that is present in every societal system, including but not limited to the justice system, the educational system, the economic system, etc., just because the person is black. Oppression, depression affects how black people feel, think, and behave. Oppression, depression can lead to a variety of other emotional, behavioral, physical, and societal problems. People with oppression, depression may feel like their back is always against the wall, or no matter how hard they try, they just cannot seem to make it. People with oppression, depression may use things to escape the feeling, like drugs, alcohol, food, sex, shopping, etc. Oppression, depression is treatable, and get help from a professional therapist who is black and experienced in helping people with oppression, depression. Again, our very own Ayanna Molina LPC, founder of True Love Movement, Cite the Power. You know, this was her concept, brilliant, and another brilliant unfolding of her concept is this Friday, January 17th.
The 17th.
At Art Space, 3116 St. Claude. We will have the final release and birthing of Late Bloomer, the album. Come on out from 7 to 9 p.m. It's going to be beautiful, family, and we just thank everybody for listening to us. Thank all of our callers. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Mama Fiyah, and share this show with people you respect, like True Love Movement on Facebook. Subscribe to the True Love Movement TV on YouTube. Follow True Love Movement at Instagram and at TLMHR on Twitter. I'm Brother Shaq.
And Mama Fiyah.
For True Love Movement Tuesdays, family. Wholeness. All right, Mark Williams.
Let's
6:30. I mean, we got a little bit of time. All right, family. Thank y'all.